Okay, it looks like I'm live. Apparently, it's easier to do on my phone. It takes me so many times on my laptop. This is Jill, also known as the Traveling Joe Reader, and I am back at the beach as I share today for Wildcard Wednesday. And today, I feel it's really rather random and rambly, which I'm known to do, but I just wanted to share some thoughts that came to me while I was sitting here watching the beautiful ocean waves come in. Let me show you what I'm looking at here. Gorgeous, right? So, today I wanted to talk about how I kind of started it out with old habits die hard, and then was like, we want to change in theory, but we don't want to change in practice. And it made me think of how I am not lazy. I will work my ass off, and I have. I have worked my ass off for employers that would replace me in a heartbeat for whatever reason. Like, if you get hit by a bus, your employer's not gonna, you're replaceable, or at least that's how it's been at the jobs I've had. And I worked for an employer back when I lived in Phoenix, Arizona, that he was the owner, and he rarely made time for me because I was beneath him. And he gave that impression, but that was cool. I liked my coworkers, and it paid my bills. That's what I was working for. And he happened to ask me one day, say hello and ask me how I was, which is not his norm. And it was a rough day. And I answered honestly because my dad had just been diagnosed with bladder cancer. And, we were still waiting for more info. It wasn't like it wasn't like a death sentence, but my mom also died of cancer, and I was just rolling in all kinds of emotions while I happened to be at work, having to keep it together and not show what I was personally going through. And unfortunately, apparently for him, when he asked how I was doing, I was honest. And I got emotional, and I got sad, and I just shared. My heartfelt feelings. And who both his parents still alive and healthy, he couldn't relate, or he chose not to relate. He didn't have time for my emotional, spewing on him, and he tried to get away as quick as possible and said, "Oh, we'll talk later," which I knew wasn't true. And then the way it ended up was my manager ended up talking to me later about how it was brought to his attention that I wasn't doing my job professionally, and I needed to keep my personal life separate from work. And that several people heard me talking, and there was no one around. It was the owner had gone to my manager and let him know how unacceptable I was in sharing my real feelings. And this is someone who I had worked through the pandemic. I had come in at 4 a.m. in the morning, not my normal shift, to do their pandemic protocol, while half the building was sent home and didn't have to come into work, and the owner being one of them. He was too fearful to come into work during the pandemic, but I was there at 4 a.m. taking temperatures of the employees that were stuck having to keep the business running. And here he couldn't even give me the grace. And so I don't share that to say, I just share that to say, those are the kind of jobs I've been working. And I'm not against having a job you love and working for someone who appreciates you and values what you bring to the table for their organization. I just haven't found that. But on the other hand, I also My issue is getting stuck, and that's all there is to life. That you going to your job and living for the weekend, or hoping to someday save for a vacation to get away enough to go back and tolerate your job. That is not living. That is not a life. And so I'm out here contemplating, what does it look like to have a life I love, to live in this so much more. And I was going to share a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to, even though I try to keep these videos short. I have a cousin who has a child with special needs. And when I say special needs, I don't know her exact diagnosis, but she lives in her own world. She's very much nonverbal, and she has outbursts. And I'm sharing this today because I'm here at the ocean listening to these waves roll in and seeing the beauty of them and the massiveness of them. And he was told once by her physician that there's such a thing as full moon syndrome, and how the moon affects the gravitational pull, of the moon affects the ocean. And here we act like it doesn't affect everything. It doesn't affect us. And he said that when there's a full moon, they know that she's going to have an outburst, that she's going to, like, they can time it. They track now the full moon, and it's called full moon syndrome. And just things that I guess we don't chat about in our everyday or think about. But when I talk about this so much more, like, we're all connected. There is so much more than buying into the fact that I have to work for an unappreciative employer for a paycheck that doesn't really pay the bills. What's the so much more for you? And what are the old habits you're holding on to that you're afraid to let go of to step into so much more? Yes, old habits die hard. And sometimes we just want change in theory, not practice. And then there's what the hell do you do to change? I don't know. But I'm working on it. And I'm wishing you all a beautiful, glorious, amazing day. I'm going to turn the camera. So I say, I wish you all a just so filled, terrific, wonderful Wednesday as you maybe feel the calling to embrace this so much more in your own life and what that is. Much love, everyone.